50. This summer of 2023, all summer, every Canadian province's forests burn and burn. Several nations send thousands more firefighters, but no national or world capacity exists to even attempt control, much less dousing of these 500 blazes throughout Canada's vast wilderness. Most of our northern neighbors and a large chunk of America will endlessly, deeply inhale months more soot in filthy gray midday twilight. The last several seasons of massive six-continent forest fires that no government was prepared to put out or preventatively irrigate were merely rising flickers compared to Earth's next few seasons of giant infernos roaring over thousands of habitations during 6 to 12-month fire seasons. Decades of fire smoke inhalation research was just published. Just a few days' exposure to tiny, deep-lung soot particles, then delivered throughout every human organ and tissue, causes pregnant women to have sickly newborns. For all victims, skyrocket risk of lung and many other cancers, strokes, heart attacks, and terminal dementias. As I wrote and spoke to you last summer, ponder your role in treaty rescue a while longer, while this year's fires are double last year's. I'm kidding. Decide now. Act now. CO2 will rise several tens of parts per million in the stratosphere above the current 420, already 55% above pre-industrial normal 260 parts per million, despite and during even 25-year emissions decline to net human zero by 2050. An ideal goal requiring remarkable industrial and government cooperation. Unless fire suppression measures that our world's leerless feeders, an astonishingly accurate spoonerism, absolutely refuse to contemplate, much less plan, are indeed implemented worldwide, giant cities could burn to the ground, with 20 to 60 mile-an-hour firestorms spreading, running down and frying residents, fleeing on foot past their millions of gridlocked vehicles. Smaller communities and suburbs have, last decade, already been torched in many locations, given maximal aid by current impotent authorities, consisting of media alerts. You have minutes, maybe seconds to drive away, faster than that 100-foot-high wall of flame you see 400 yards away. So leave the photos, money, and pets, and gun the accelerator for your lives. Fire trucks can't touch hell on earth. I am not the expert to design fire suppression of the future, but the technocrats, bureaucrats, and war cats could all care less. So here goes. Fund as needed from the world's annual $2.3 trillion murder program. Your treaty necessary, obviously. Confiscate all their warplanes. Every one that can slow down over lakes or oceans dangles water scoopers. Dump hundreds to thousands of loads on early fires to put out before they're thousands of times bigger. Mix with all the fire suppressant chemicals that crash manufacture produces. Water the driest areas nearest the most people to prevent fires. Every government on the planet put enough of our taxes into CO2 atmosphere scrubber plants to remove 80 to 160 parts per million in as few decades as possible to bring back normal temperatures and rain. That would be all well and good, military lovers and thieves will tell us. Just not with our giant human battle chunk of world budgets. You need our 49 wars and nuclear and conventional arms races and unregulated, much less banned, world weapons industry for national security. Don't trouble your pretty little head with rationale, especially any historical and future proof that war is peace and weapons are safety. Just trust us while you pay up. I've reminded you before, thousands of times more human hazardous than fire and even non-nuclear war is the pending drought death of forests already well underway that will quintuple CO2 emissions above the 2025 human and natural peak, flat-ending regular rain over much of the world. You will not love and protect your growing children or yourselves without loving and protecting forests everywhere. Only possible after treaty ban of militarism and the national corruption that explodes war. Love never conquered all, but love law just might. This summer of 2023, a hurricane only brushed Hawaii with a few hours of 80-mile-an-hour winds, including the historically lush, verdant island of Maui, now parched by drought. Just as global warming has savaged most of vegetated, populated Earth for decades. All it took to turn this typical gale into one of history's most fatal urban firestorms was municipal electric utility company incompetence. One human error. Power lines left on to shower sparks from the high wind-damaged grid. In 1,000 years, if we last that long, fire suppression technology will still be helpless against a dry hurricane blasting a metal-melting inferno across even drier land, plants, and houses, spreading a mile a minute. 10,000 homes and buildings vanished. Over 100 people incinerated to bone powder. Even the DNA of many gone without a trace. Those in Maui not charbroiled where they hid or ran, threw themselves in the ocean and waited for Coast Guard rescue. 1,000 even hotter fires are too imminent for us to stop. Only our speeches and your rescue can change the world to avert ever greater future doom. A researcher just predicted yet another devastating effect of global warming, a total halt to the Atlantic Gulf Stream, the cross-ocean current keeping vast northern latitudes warm. Said disaster perhaps holding off until 2095, or hitting us within 24 months. Long ago, this exact event triggered a 1,000-year ice age. But hey, it would solve global warming. All we gotta do is migrate to the equator, chased down there by half-mile thick ice. Other researchers say this outlier study is more flawed than scientifically convincing. Okay, back to our at least as dooming hothouse. Present governments, this year and to the end, as fully corrupted to their theft and war and our doom as the last 10,000, will not save us or themselves either. Only you can save your world and your children.